We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Mike, is normally one of the bigger drinking nights of the year. And I woke up this morning, it was the first thing I thought of. First thing I thought of was like, man, no one's going to be out tonight. No one's going to be drinking tonight. It's definitely a huge concern for me. I don't know if you're going to just finish a couple of bottles of wine by yourself tonight. What are your plans to celebrate Wednesday, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be going out, unfortunately.
You can't.
This is my favorite drinking night of the year. Like my favorite drink day is July 4th. But I think like this night is really just because everyone and their mother is out.
Yep. Literally mothers are out.
Yeah. Over the years. But no, it's a shame, but stay safe out there.
Yeah. I also think too, it's like one of my favorite years to drink because normally you're going to back home of some sort, and then you're going to back home bars, which I'm from like a smallish town, like adjacent to Oakland, where there's only like a handful of bars people go to. Mm-hmm. Then you run into everyone that you met in high school and see just how tragic their lives have become. I remember
makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. There was one time where I went back and I met this guy, or I ran into this guy that I was like kind of like a jock in high school, kind of a loser, and he was the doorman at one of the dingy bars there. It's just tragic to see. It was more sad than anything, honestly. You see some of these guys just not
gainfully employed. I mean, I can't hate on that.
What'd you say?
It's gainfully employed. Like
that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right into these takes that we're thankful for. You take us off the top here.
Yeah, I was going to say, why be a draft analyst if you can't beat your chest over a preseason touchdown by a guy you were really high on? So we're going to have some takes.
Some John Gruden victory laps around Arrowhead Stadium right now.
That I was thankful for. And I'm going to start off with Wyatt Teller, our highest graded guard right now. I don't want to say we saw it coming, but we saw it coming. 53rd on our board that year. That's very high. He ended up drafted in the 5th round, I believe. Was even traded by the Bills after his rookie season. We had him as interior offensive lineman 4 in that class. Way ahead of Billy Price, who was ranked 69th on our board. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm thankful for that take.
Quinn dropped in. Producer Quinn, Cincinnati Faithful, dropped in a nice on the Billy Price comment. Billy Price is like Voldemort here in Quinn City. No one brings up that dude's name because he has been absolutely atrocious for the Cincinnati Bengals. The take I am thankful for is I was really high on Brian Burns coming out, and I think he finished 14th on our board that year, but really high on him. He had production. Huh?
You were higher.
Higher than 14th. But I think Brian Burns this year is one of the highest graded edge defenders in the NFL. One of the highest pass rush win rates when you remove RPO, screens, and play action passes. He has been very, very good. And I still think there's a ton of room to improve for him because how he's winning right now is a lot of outside moves, some inside spins. But if he can start to really develop that, that bull rush that we talked about, and I talked to him before the draft, and we talked about this on the podcast before, but first thing you bring up to this guy is how much tape he's watching, how much he's trying to get stronger, trying to add weight before the combine. He got to that 250 number, but Brian Burns, man, I'm really impressed with this year 2 leap he's taken, and I still think that he can get a lot better as moves progress. He's still also a very young player, in the NFL that I think can get a lot better, but higher than 14th on our board, and I think he's been the best. What would he be? Arguably the best edge defender coming out of that class, or who?
You're joking. You're forgetting someone.
I know. Nick Bosa, but I do think Brian Burns has been really good.
Yeah, he has. And the thing
you're joking
is about him being undersized, not having a bull rush. The reason I believe he's gotten by and like what makes him different from your run of the mill, from your who's the guy in this Quincy Roches of the college football world, who are these undersized guys who don't have bull rushes, is that Brian Burns is a freak athlete. I mean, he ran a 4.53 at the combine at 249 pounds. Like he had a 36 inch
to compare,
vertical.
Jeffrey Okudah ran a 4.48.
Yeah, like he is legitimate high level athleticism to where offensive tackles still, like we worry about offensive tackles once they get their hands on him. They don't get their hands on him is the thing. Like he is that quick that, at 249 pounds.
His move against the Lions this past week, I'm sure you made its way to Twitter.
Hezzy outside. Like he is, guys can't do that unless you are his level of athlete. If you're coming in and running a 4.7, you're not going to be able to do that. I don't care how talented you are, how well you set it up. It's just not going to have that quickness to get past an offensive tackle. So I think that's what really has set Brian Burns apart and why we believe that he could get by, and you were even bigger fan of his game coming out.
Give us another take you're thankful for.
Another take we're thankful for, I'm thankful for. And we haven't talked about it much in our second year.
We haven't.
What's our second year segment called again? It's your baby.
After close.
After close.
It's not my baby.
That's your baby. This is a Rookies and Drafts podcast, and you want to talk about second year guys.
Who doesn't want to talk second year players? Everyone wants to know where they've been.
I'm kidding.
It's one of those
I
segments. Like it's like the Wednesday drinking game or Wednesday bar night before Thanksgiving. Everyone sees those people that they met before, and now they want to
When the bar closes, I go home though. You stay out, and that's why you love that.
True.
Amani Oruwariye, Lions cornerback, another 5th round pick here. 36th on our board coming out. We were big fans of his game. He has been very good this year. 3rd lowest completion percentage allowed of any cornerback in the NFL, 46.8% so far this season. Only 329 yards all year long. I think Jeffrey Okudah allowed that in the last 2 weeks alone. That's an exaggeration. He didn't. But he has been far and away their best cornerback this year, one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, having a big second-year breakout. So I'm thankful that, like I said, I don't want to say we saw it coming, but we saw it coming.
One more take I'm really thankful for, but I actually have to pivot to another one. But one before I make the joke take is that Jonah Williams, how high we were on Jonah Williams. There's another guy that I interviewed and talked to and predicted that he'd have a very big second year after obviously missing his entire rookie season due to injury. And he so far, I think, has a 75.0 plus PFF pass blocking grade. People not made fun of, but commented on the short arms. Maybe he's undersized. Should he kick into guard? He's played really, really well at offensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think he will continue to do so as they continue to try and build that offensive line, maybe add a Penei Sewell in the draft, and like we've said, throw the kitchen sink at offensive line talent in free agency, because that is really the next step for the Cincinnati Bengals. But the take I'm actually going to put on this list here is Clemson in a blowout. It made it to Instagram. The social guys ran with it as a quote graphic, and I'll tell you what, when they did not win in overtime, I have Golden Domer avatars in my IG DMs ready to kill my family.
I want to see these DMs.
They were very upset. Don't doubt the Fighting Irish, and I apologize that I did. My Greenline pick today is +5.
Don't do it. Don't go there.
Maybe it will be. But we'll get there. All right. Moving from what we're thankful for and jumping into this piece here. You wrote before the season, you made 10 bold predictions on the rookie class. One being Joe Burrow finishes as a top 10 quarterback. With the injury, maybe has an asterisk on this one. But right now, is he not a top 10 graded quarterback on PFF?
He is not. He's 20th. But that's the thing. It's the season's not over. Guys could suck the second half of the year. Guys could fall behind.
That would not be fair.
I will say there were years, though. So he has finished with a 75.1 overall grade. There were years that would have been a top 10 grade in the NFL. It's just passing has gone from, everyone's okay at it to now, like everyone's looking like average pass rating in the NFL is like in the mid 90s. So, he was good.
So you're saying Joe Burrow would have been better if everyone else was a lot worse?
They should have sat him against the Ravens. Yes. I don't think because I don't know. I don't feel great about the Bengals offense comparatively to other offenses around the NFL, but it's neither here nor there. I still think Joe Burrow, not top 10, but job well done. Rookie season.
Number 2, Jalen Reagor, the Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, former TCU wideout, will have 12 plus deep receptions this year.
Who could have seen Carson Wentz turning into?
Dude, I love Rex Ryan. I don't know if you've seen this bit from Rex Ryan where he's talking about Carson Wentz. Like, I think it's Orlovsky who goes on this long rant about how the New York Giants are the best team in the NFC East, blah, blah, blah. And then Rex Ryan cuts over. He's like, yeah, it's not the Eagles. Carson Wentz sucks. And it's just like, wow, this is fantastic content here. Yeah. But he has been terrible. But Jalen Reagor only has 1 deep reception all year. He's also battled injuries, which is a factor. But I think a bigger factor is Carson Wentz being absolutely atrocious this year. That entire offense has been absolutely atrocious this year.
Dude, and not even like just atrocious, unplayably bad. They should bench him for Jalen Hurts at this point. He's not doing himself any favors by just
What would be your predictions
and
of Jalen Hurts in this
how big
offense?
an L you brought Darren Orlovsky. He was pumping this guy's tires all last season. Like, you got to take the L on that one. Like, this guy sucks.
That's not a take he's thankful for. I don't think, at least of now.
I mean, I've had those before, but you just got mea culpa. Sorry, I was wrong about who was the problem. It's been Carson Wentz this year.
How well do you think Jalen Hurts would perform in the Eagles offense this year, even if it is just down the 6-week stretch?
Honestly, not great. Like, I don't think he'd be much as a passer, but if he's running the ball, you're at least getting that aspect. And they still have a fairly good offensive line. Like it's
one more question to feed the Eagles fans. Do you think Denzel Ward pushed off on Alshon Jeffrey on that pick late? I think that was a little bit of a push him forward. Also, Alshon Jeffrey jumped early, but do you think that's a DPI?
I'm team less DPIs. That if a guy's attacking the football, if he gets there first, he got there first. Sorry.
Fair enough. Number 3, Jonathan Taylor, top 3 in rushing grade. 518 yards.
You're not rushing yards.
Oh, rushing yards. I apologize. Jonathan Taylor, top 3 in rushing yards, 518, only 250 back of third place.
Yeah, this one. Just one big game, Jonathan. No, he
had
looked
his
better
big
this
game.
past week. I would say he looked better this past week. There's some time to make up that ground. It doesn't look great right now, though. He's, like I said, that's one game over the course of a pretty lackluster season. And so that one, none of these look good.
None of these have been great so far, Mike. I don't know. I'm glad we started. Maybe now I realize why you wanted to do the takes we're thankful for segment ahead of these, because these takes are not great so far.
I mean, I had to address
bold.
them. Yeah. And then we can put it to bed. Then we can delete the article, please.
3 rookie running backs will finish the season with 1,000 rushing yards.
This one could hit. And this one hadn't happened since, I didn't have the year off. I think it's 2012. Mm-hmm. This hadn't happened. James Robinson on pace for 1,000 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire on pace for 1,000 yards. Antonio Gibson on pace for like 900 yards. Jonathan
That's
Taylor
only because J.D. McKissick has photos of Ron Rivera or something. That one's going
to change around. I think down the stretch, Antonio Gibson is going to be the one who makes me look smart in this take. I think
J.D. McKissick is the first guy in, last guy out. He brings breakfast in the morning, sometimes bagels, sometimes donuts, because this guy is getting an absolutely absurd target share, snap share. When Antonio Gibson is balling out.
Yeah.
The forward Memphis back is balling out. I loved this one coming out. I remember when we did the podcast, this one I didn't even feel like was all that bold. But it's a good one. No rookie tight end goes over 400 yards since 2014.
Harrison Bryant is on pace for 241, and that's going to lead all rookies. That is awful. Like this one, put a stamp on it.
And Harrison Bryant was one of those ones where after the combine, everyone thought, like, I don't even know this guy could push a shopping cart in the NFL.
Well, it's not like 241 yards is.
No, I know. I'm saying him leading them is even insane.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of other people.
Well, everyone thought it was going to be, I don't know, one of the Patriots tight ends, but they don't even throw to that. So.
I remember Albert Okui-Bunam, the former Missouri tight end, had a lot of hype after he ran his surprising 40-yard dash that I got put on Old Takes Exposed or whatever it was for saying he wasn't a good athlete. He didn't look like a good athlete at Missouri, but
there's a lot more athleticism than straight line speed.
That's true. Very true. All right.
Should have said that.
Number 6, Michael Pittman Jr., the Indianapolis Colts receiver, leads all rookies in receptions.
He got hurt. Mm-hmm. That's hurting him, but he only has 24. CeeDee Lamb leads with 48. Over the last 3 games,
he's been peppered in that offense.
14.
CeeDee Lamb gets a lot of targets in Dallas.
Yeah, CeeDee does. He has 14 over the last 3 games. If that were to be his pace for the entire season and he stayed healthy, he would be leading. So,
wow,
that's my excuse.
I like the extrapolation there, Mike. CeeDee Lamb, man, we could talk about it every podcast, but how much he's earning targets in this offense when you have Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
and I mean, you're talking about earning snap share of the overall offense. Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. It's been impressive what he's done in Dallas. And I think he's going to be a dude in Dallas for a while, and he's only going to get better. Number 7, 2020 has fewer 800-yard wide receivers than 2019. Is that on pace to hit?
It's not. But I also didn't see the passing boom coming. No one did. We have 5 guys on pace for over 800. But so Justin Jefferson already there at 848.
Yikes! Crazy.
But one of them's T. Higgins, who's just may not get another catch the rest of the year in that Bengals offense. One of them, CeeDee Lamb, who, I mean, Andy Dalton, he's not going to put up the numbers that he did early in the season. And then Jerry Jeudy and Chase Claypool. They're all on pace for 800 yards. So that one's going to come down to the wire. We're going to have to see about that one.
Coming down to the wire. Jalen Johnson, the Chicago Bears cornerback, will be the highest graded rookie at his position in 2020. He started out of the gate hot.
Yeah.
He and C.J. Henderson were both grading really, really well. But of late, I think he's seen better competition. They've been leaning on him a bit more. And he, of all the quarterbacks, I do think is in a position to get targeted a ton. I mean, he gets a ton of targets compared to the rest of these guys.
Yeah, he does. And his grade's not great because of the penalties, but currently he sits as the 5th highest graded cornerback, 54.3 grade. Like I said, a lot of that's penalty driven. He does lead in PBUs. 11 PBUs. That's a good sign for a rookie, but not quite at number 1. But it's not like he's that far off. AJ Terrell leads with a 71.3 overall grade. Like, no one's playing well here. So he could very well, 1-2 big games. He could make it. We'll see.
I mean, any pre-draft takes you had on this cornerback class kind of died. This entire cornerback. I was trying to think when we were doing the takes we're thankful for. It's like I had a lot of opinions on the cornerback class. Oh, they've all been garbage though. So it's really difficult to. And everyone, I posted the Jeffrey Okudah route. I don't know if you saw it against DJ Moore, where he just gets absolutely toasted at the line of scrimmage and just burnt. Like it was a rep you did not see at Ohio State.
Exactly.
It was simply a rep you did not see at Ohio State. Any team, any fan base that wants to jump on Jeff Gladney, I'd even throw Trayvon Diggs in there, Cameron Dantzler. I'm trying to think of the other guy, Jeffrey Okudah. Guys for like, oh man, they don't look good. These guys are busts. Wait it out, because the cornerback position overall, even beyond rookies, has struggled this year. I mean, like you said, how many cornerbacks this year?
There's 3 cornerbacks with grades over 80 right now.
That's insane.
3, because like I said, they're just at such an unfair advantage nowadays. Like the passing game is just so much far advanced from where it has been. No pass rush, no all hard counts. It's just. They're at a disadvantage this season.
Absolutely. Number 9, similar cornerback take here. Cameron Dantzler, Minnesota Vikings corner, finishes the second highest graded corner, rookie corner at his position.
He obviously got hurt, came back, looked at his best game this past week against the Cowboys, only 10 yards allowed, but he still has a 54.6 overall grade.
Like he's been on the back end of some bad plays.
And he's had some bad plays. And we'll see.
But I think, here's a take for next year. Here's a take I'm hopefully thankful for in 2021. Is that multiple of these guys, like 3 or 4 of these guys, take significant steps forward in year 2. Now, I'm not saying all of them become world beaters, but guys that are grading under 60.0, like Jalen Johnson, Cameron Dantzler, Okudah, I think is even in the 50s, low 40s even. I think those guys take steps forward. I just don't think you're going to see this bad of tape from the entire rookie cornerback class in 2021 with hopefully, ideally, a full offseason, a full preseason, which I don't even know if we're going to be able to get that, but it's going to be huge for their development. Like the games that you've seen these rookie quarterbacks played is the only NFL games they've ever played. And they didn't play any preseason games. I feel like the practices were an interesting case, mostly Zoom calls. So definitely hold out on any player, any rookie on your fan base that you think is already a bust. Lions draft class has the highest WAR, and your comment here is you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, this one I don't want to talk about. I should have known better. It's putting my hopes on the Lions to make me look smart. They might have negative WAR from that rookie class.
I mean, Detroit Lions have been bad.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it starts up top. You
said it, not me.
Nothing changes over an X amount of year span now. Yeah, let's go to the college football playoff rankings.
All right, actually, we're going NFL picks first. Let's go NFL prospects to watch.
You don't want to talk about the college football playoff rankings?
Oh, we do. I'm sorry. College football playoff rankings. Yes, let's do that. College football playoff rankings. Northwestern is 8th.
Yeah,
Mike. We've bagged on Northwestern before. If you Google Northwestern's schedule, the academic calendar comes up before their football team schedule. Yeah. And they are the 8th best country according to the poll.
I'm not just saying this because I look like an idiot for picking Wisconsin over them last week to cover a 7.5 point spread. Trust me, that's not why. I'm not salty about that at all. I'm a little salty about that. But they kept harping on this fact that this was based off of watching the games and how they played and how talented they think these teams are. That's why you get, a 2-loss Georgia team at 9 because they're so talented. They're just so good, even though they lose games a lot. Like, to me, what actually happens on the football field has to matter. And if that's the case, you can't sell me that, like, that's what you're actually thinking. You can't sell me that Northwestern would beat Georgia on a neutral field. You can't sell me that would be a single-digit line on any single field. So, like, why are you putting Northwestern there? Why are you putting BYU at 14th when they've been the most dominant team in the country on tape?
Behind Iowa State. Behind Iowa State,
who lost to Louisiana Lafayette. You can't give a strength of schedule sort of bump to them for being in the Big 12 when you lose to a non-Power 5 team in Louisiana Lafayette. You just can't do that. I think that was almost like a, hey, BYU, go schedule a real team, but also like they got screwed because they were, yeah. So I have a lot of problems with these rankings, but the whole fact that you put Clemson ahead of Notre Dame in your rankings is the most egregious thing I've ever seen also.
Clemson over Notre Dame because they're going to win the ACC championship, and that's going to push them ahead.
But you can't have that You can't have that take right now.
I have that take right now.
In your rankings, who you had Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame.
And then Cincinnati,
They
BYU.
played. The two of those teams played already.
One of them beat without their top quarterback, the best quarterback in college football.
So, don't go get COVID. Like, don't. be more responsible, Trevor Lawrence, if you don't want your team to lose.
DJ Uiagalelei took Notre Dame and Ian Book's loser ass to OT.
I'm just saying, at some point,
And they were out without Mike Jones Jr.
I can see watching the games, and here's my take on this. I can see watching the games and saying, having a talent evaluation when teams have equal resumes in terms of 2 teams are undefeated, 2 teams have 1 loss, 2 teams have 2 losses. When you have an undefeated team and one that beat another team on that, what happens on the field has to matter some.
Yeah.
So like if UC goes through an undefeated schedule, you can't put say Florida over them if they have 2 losses and it's like they lose to Alabama in the SEC championship. You can't put Florida over them just because one of those losses is so tough. They played Alabama. Like what happens on the field still has to matter. If you're losing games, it still has to matter. I don't care.
To be fair, though, I want to clarify. My rankings were predictions on how they'll end up, not where I would put them now. Predictions where I would end up. Maybe I misinterpreted what the social guys were looking for. But I will say this: when we posted that to Twitter, Instagram, everyone's got a freaking monster opinion. Everyone's just like, "Oh my god, these are the worst rankings I've ever seen." It's like these are not that far off from where they actually end up. BYU. The only thing that was maybe egregious compared to this is how high we had BYU. But BYU at 14th, behind Oklahoma at 6-2, behind Iowa State at 6-2 is absurd. That doesn't make any sense.
That to me is just ridiculous. If like BYU actually has NFL talent, like they're not some. This isn't like.
And San Diego State's nowhere to be found.
This isn't Marshall. This isn't Coastal Carolina going undefeated. Like that. Yeah. That's like fluky. They're not.
Zach Wilson's going to be a top 3 pick. You have to factor that in. You have to factor that in.
And that's what I thought they would, and want that name brand at the end of the year. And that's why I thought they would like take BYU over UC if both are undefeated. But apparently, that one though, I think UC is the much better team.
I saw someone have Oregon taking the 4th spot in their college football playoff rankings. Okay, and you're going to come at me for having a relative. I think the 4 best teams in the country are Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. Those are the 4 best teams in the country. Yeah. Will it not shake out that way? Will Notre Dame beat Clemson again in the championship and push Clemson out?
Yes,
maybe. But those, if you want, if you're voting to have the 4 best teams in the country in the college football playoff, those are the 4 best teams. If you want to go based on record and based on the field and cheer on some of these Cinderella stories, maybe you sneak a Cincinnati in if they go undefeated. Maybe you sneak BYU in. But let's not fool anyone here. Texas A&M fans in my DMs, Florida fans in my DMs, you're not catching Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame as the 4 best teams in the country right now. All right.
Florida has to be licking their wounds from that loss early in the season.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's tempers cool a little bit. Okay. Let's take a quick short break, and when we come back, let's look at some NFL prospects, college rookies, or NFL rookies and college prospects to watch, and then make our NCAA and NFL Greenline picks, courtesy of the PFF Elite subscription. The first matchup you have highlighted here in the NFL, I'm excited because Henry Ruggs, the Las Vegas wide receiver, has not lived up to expectation from a volume perspective. The box score for Henry Ruggs Jr. does not look, or Henry Ruggs Jr., Henry Ruggs III does not look good. And I have people asking me, should the Raiders be nervous? Is this guy a bust? What's going on? And part of me has sided with what a has said, that he's taking the top off of the defense. He's had a handful of really good plays this year. But at a certain point, you want to see him earn more targets in this offense. He didn't have a target until the second half against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. And the target he did have was a short little flare out. He took, 2 or 3 yards. That, in my opinion, when he's not a focal point of your game plan, and you're rather throwing to Nelson Aguilar, a.k.a. what Derek Carr calls Nelly, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller, one of the better tight ends in the NFL, I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah, I mean, a pure deep threat with Derek Carr was never like a recipe for a 1,000-yard season. Like, that was never going to be big numbers, but you thought it could lead to like one big, like more big plays for sure than it has. He's going up against AJ Terrell, who we mentioned has been the highest graded. He's been very good at limiting big plays. They're in that Falcons defense, a very good fit for what they do defensively. So it'll be an interesting matchup to watch. Like, he does not have a single Henry Ruggs this year catch against press coverage.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
He's the only receiver in the NFL with at least 50 routes run against press coverage and 0 receptions.
And again, like just the way Derek Carr plays quarterback, though, is so weird. Like, it's unique in the NFL landscape in just the routes he targets and the way there's no, like, he's gotten more plays outside the pocket this year, but there's no, like, second reaction deep ball shot to a guy who has that just like doesn't happen almost ever. In that
He's
offense.
scrambled more this year than he ever has in any single season of his career. But also,
like, it's still not a lot.
Yep. All right, mine is going to be CeeDee Lamb, and this isn't a matchup. This is on Thanksgiving. If I know anything about CeeDee Lamb so far this year, is that he thrives in primetime. And Thanksgiving is a day for breakout players. I think it's the Steve Smith quote, big players make big plays in big games. This isn't necessarily a massive game going against the Washington football team, but when you're on Thanksgiving Day, some ballers always show out. And I think it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. He's coming off an insane game against the losing track Minnesota Vikings, where he had that awesome catch in the end zone, and he continues to he has leads all rookies in receptions this year, behind Justin Jefferson in yards. But CeeDee Lamb has looked very, very good. I think if you're looking for a star to shine bright on Thanksgiving, you're sitting down, mashed potatoes, stuffing, mac and cheese if you're keen. I know that's a big debate right now whether mac and cheese is a side on Thanksgiving, but just put what you freaking want.
Ooh, Mike Quinn going with it is.
Say that louder for the guys in the back, Quinn.
It is. Mac and cheese is a Thanksgiving side dish.
I'm in on it.
I'm fine with that as long as it's like that fancy mac and cheese that's baked with the
it's gotta come out in a glass
crumbs.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can't be Kraft.
No,
or
it's
like
Kraft.
or like a Dutch oven or something.
Yeah.
But the side that never, like, the fact that I cannot believe it hasn't caught on any other week of the year, stuffing. Like, how do we not eat stuffing?
I agree. I have actually a good comment
on
on
a
this.
normal basis.
So I was in a coffee shop recently grabbing coffee, and one of the baristas is asking a girl behind me, like, oh, what are you having for Thanksgiving? The classic banter or whatever it is. And she says, what's your favorite dish on Thanksgiving? And she says, hey, everyone calls me weird for it, but my favorite dish is actually stuffing. And I'm sitting over here in my head, I'm like, oh, everyone calls me weird for liking the most popular freaking dish on Thanksgiving across the entire United States. You can ask everyone in the United States what they have on Thanksgiving. Turkey's going to be one, and stuffing's probably going to be the second most popular answer. No, you're not freaking weird for liking stuffing. It would have been weird if you said, like, the yams or the grease at the bottom of the oven at the end. Like, that would be weird. Stuffing, absolutely not. You sound like an idiot. Sorry.
And stuffing should replace, or not replace, but it should be like French fries, tater tots, stuffing on the side. Do you want one of those three?
Tater tots?
Have one of those three. I mean, that's how kind of like, I'm saying, like, at a normal restaurant.
Okay.
That's like your side options.
How often do you go to restaurants where they're offering tater tots?
Dude, tater tots are big in Cincinnati.
What the hell is this? Tater tots are atrocious.
Okay, here, I have a take on tater tots versus French fries. French fries have a higher ceiling. Tater tots have a higher floor.
Yeah, and they don't have a ceiling. It's just the floor. Like,
okay.
Tater tots are the same every single time. They're frozen out of a bag and they're garbage.
Nope.
I haven't had a tater tot that was taken above expectations.
Tots don't get as soggy.
Tots don't get as soggy, which is a fair take.
That's why I said
here's how you make a good tater tot. You throw a bunch of other shit on it. Like, you throw like cheese and green onions and all these people trying to light it up. With fries, you can have a perfect fry with nothing. You can have a good fry, all that stuff.
You can have a good tater tot by
We have to get off the tater tot vibes here. But CeeDee Lamb on Thanksgiving, calling it right now, he's going to have a big one.
Is he going to be
super excited. Against a very
tater
bad
tot or a French fry on Thanksgiving?
He's going to be a freaking French fry on Thanksgiving.
Bang. All right. My next one, Andrew Thomas, the Giants left tackle, has not been complete ass of late. Breaking. Pass blocking grades.
Is that going to be a quote graphic on Twitter? Like, when we do the quote graphics, they highlight a certain part in green. Andrew Thomas,
make that quote graphic right
Andrew Thomas has not been green highlight complete ass this year.
This past few weeks.
Sorry, go ahead.
72.2 pass block grade, 66.4 and 64.0 the past 3 weeks. That's progress, my friends. We didn't get the take completely wrong. Him going against Carl Lawson, the Bengals. I almost got tickets to this game because they were super cheap, and then I realized, oh yeah, I know why they're cheap.
Did you get COVID?
Ryan Finley. No, Ryan Finley.
No, it wasn't that. Okay.
It was, I mean, like, no more Joe Burrow.
How cheap
completely
were they?
Slipped my mind. What?
How cheap were the tickets?
How cheap? It was like $40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, but like no one wants to see Ryan Finley get shut out at home. So, but I do want to see Andrew Thomas going up against Carl Lawson because he's a unique rusher in the way he rushes, and that he's a very tests up field, will get into your chest and bull rush you. If you're not ready for it, he'll beat you down every single play because, like I said, it's a unique way that he rushes the passer and he can have some big games. So Andrew Thomas, would love to see how he does against that.
He needs to. I've heard from a source that he has not been complete ass of late, so I'm hoping he continues that streak.
Yeah, I heard that source too.
I'm looking ahead to Justin Herbert going against the Buffalo Bills. I think in Buffalo is that game. I think that one's going to be a really tough test for Justin Herbert, similar to the test he had against Miami Dolphins where he did not look as great. But I think Justin Herbert going to this game, 5.5-point dogs. I think this is going to be another one of those ones where he's outside playing in unideal weather. I don't think it's going to be an all-out blizzard there in Buffalo, but a big test for Justin Herbert, who he only has a handful of games on his slate left where he's going against some pretty solid defenses that can give him fits. And for the take I had on Monday's podcast about him finishing with a top 5 graded rookie season in the PFF era at the quarterback position, I need him to show up against Buffalo. I think Justin Herbert can, and I think the Los Angeles Chargers offense can sneaky put up points even against the Buffalo Bills team. And I know they're nowhere near like playoff contender or whatever it is, but I like their offense going against teams like Buffalo or the Kansas City Chiefs that can score. And we saw that in Justin Herbert's first start, which he didn't even plan to do until Tyrod Taylor got stabbed in the chest by his own doctor. So I think Justin Herbert, in what could be somewhat of a shootout, weather permitting, I think puts up some good points here against Buffalo.
All right, I got two reactions to that. One, about the actual game itself. I do think Buffalo, they haven't been a great defense this year, but the way they run their defense, it can give a young quarterback fits. They're looking at your eyes, they drop, and they're reading what you're doing. And so they're still going to be making plays on balls. Like if you're staring guys down, they will be breaking on passes, picks. Like that's what you'd worry about. Hopefully he takes care of the ball. That's what you want to see against a defense like that. And my second take is, how many players who have been very good this season were just not starting? Like to begin, Justin Jefferson, Justin Herbert, Chase Claypool just weren't at all at the beginning. I guess Claypool was getting the hype, but guys who just have been utterly dominant, it seems like, from the first time they stepped on the field, but just never, I don't know how you, as a coach, week one, is it because they haven't picked up the scheme, or what's because Justin Herbert looked better than Tyrod Taylor, having not practiced a whole week before he's made his first ever career start. I don't know. It's just an odd. I feel like you don't see that a lot. It's either guys come in and people know it and they start, or they don't. No one just comes in 2 or 3 games in the season and is already electric like that.
I mean, I think part of the reason why they weren't starting is the COVID stuff. Not having the abbreviated also no preseason. I think there are some rookies that maybe would have started out of the gate that weren't given that opportunity, but now that they are,
forgot about COVID. How could I forget?
Dude, you forget. Yeah, you got to think about it more, Mike. You got to. All right, now, a couple more.
I can't get it anymore though.
That's true. You're immune.
All
right, my matchups I'm looking forward to here, and I'll let you finish. Damon Arnett, the Las Vegas Raiders cornerback, who didn't have the best of games against Kansas City.
He got boned on that out and up PI call.
Yeah,
though. That was not a PI.
Yeah,
you can stand your ground. This is especially when the game's in Florida.
But yeah, Damon Arnett did not have a great game against Kansas City. And then now, also want to highlight, and I know you hate when I bring up second-year players, but that secondary is, Trayvon Mullen and Jonathan Abram going against Atlanta. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. An offense that should, if was called correctly in my opinion, be throwing on early downs often and putting up a ton of points. They don't do that, and I hate the Atlanta Falcons for it. Every single week I think there's value on them. Right now they're +3. It might be my Greenline pick. Who knows? But I think the Atlanta Falcons, that offense should, in asterisks, maybe 60 of them, should be a really big test for this very, really young secondary in Las Vegas.
You love throwing in those after close guys.
Have to.
They're struggling. Jonathan Abram, the blow in that coverage to the game-winning touchdown to Kelsey. What is he doing? That's just, you can live with some freelancing if you're a box safety. You can't live with freelancing on the back end to that degree. That's just not being responsible player in your defense, and there's just too much of that in this tape right now, unfortunately.
All right, give me your last NFL rookie to watch.
My last one is big Damian Lewis, the guard/center, hopefully back at guard this week after what he did at center last week for the Seattle Seahawks, going up against Fletcher Cox, because that's kind of a strength versus strength. It's like a brick wall meets, what's the saying? I don't know. Whatever that saying is, where two things.
Unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
Quinn. That's why he's on the mic. Thank you, Quinn.
Wow.
That's exactly what I was going for. Damian Lewis, 6 big-time blocks this season, second most among all guards. It's tied with Quentin Nelson, by the way. Our boy, friend of the pod, Quentin Nelson, just because he went to Notre Dame. But that's going to be a good match. That's just a matchup you want to watch. It's going to be big boy football.
Yeah,
right there.
I'm excited. I mean, Damon Lewis is a big boy. Absolute hoss. All right, jumping to our Greenline picks here. I kind of alluded to mine. I got Atlanta +3 because I like to sweat. Okay? Some people like to sweat. Atlanta +3, and it's not because I'm dogging the Raiders in any way, shape, or form. This should be a shootout. Both defenses are bad. if the Atlanta Falcons can't muster a strong 30, 40-point offensive performance against the Las Vegas Raiders, I think it's at home too, in Atlanta, there's got to be huge concerns. At a certain point, you can't have Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. I even think Hayden Hurst has played well in this offense. I don't think their offensive line is completely atrocious. At a certain point, the finger's got to get pointed at the sidelines because this team has more than enough talent to be putting up good, strong numbers against what will be this Las Vegas Raiders defense that hasn't looked good against anyone this year.
Yeah, I think if we take just like the Atlanta games out of Greenline the last 2 years, we'd be over 60% hit rate. Like we would just be.
That's it.
Sharps.
I asked. I don't
have any data to back that up. It just seems like it.
I'd ask Eric George, how much money would we have collectively if we just never bet the Falcons? Not saying to bet the opposite side. Just never put that money in the bank or in the whatever offshore account. I think I'd have a lot more money. I'd have a lot more money than I do now. But here I am again, bearing the cross that is the Atlanta Falcons stand here at +3.
All right, mine's gonna be. This one hurts for me to say, but the Bears +8.5 against Green Bay. One, it's funny to me that this line's even up when they don't know who's starting at quarterback for the Bears. Vegas is just it doesn't matter. Whoever starts quarterback, that's they're going to suck anyway. So it's 8.5. I just don't think it's a divisional game. I don't think the Bears are a disaster of a football team. I think their defense is still very, very good and can at least limit what Green Bay likes to do offensively and has the one thing that we saw give the Packers problems this year, and that's pressure on Aaron Rodgers. They can bring that. So I just don't see it being a blowout in a divisional game. And Green Bay's defense, man, they for some reason just have a knack of letting any team in the NFL score 20 points on them. Whoever it is, throw out Jake Luton at quarterback and you're going to give them a game like that. That's just, they don't bring heat on opposing quarterbacks the way they did last year. So I think 8.5 is just a lot for a team when you're not going up against a bottom of the barrel NFL franchise. George
Chahuri had a take on the PFF forecast, which I encourage everyone to listen to. It's another podcast on the PFF podcast network with Eric Eager and George Chahuri. That the Green Bay Packers, he was trying to say you could only have 7 teams that you think can win the Super Bowl this year. Yeah. Green Bay Packers were not on that list. What's your take on that?
No, that's absurd. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, they're still not in the driver's seat right now to get the number 1 seed, but they're close. All they need is the Saints to lose a game with Taysom Hill, and they play the Chiefs in a few weeks here, I think 3 or 4 weeks. And they don't have an easy schedule necessarily coming into the barn, but they don't have they don't play any team that I don't think they'll be favored against. So, yeah, I think that's kind of crazy to me. I don't know. I would take them over the Seahawks every single day because as kind of bad as we just said, the Packers defense has been, they have hope. Seahawks defense has no hope. Seahawks, when they go up against any offense, and they're going to have to win 4 shootouts to get to the Super Bowl, the Seahawks. Do you see that ever happening? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. All righty then. Jumping to college football now. Some prospects to watch here. Got to wrap it up here a little quickly. I want to highlight this UNC versus Notre Dame game. Diami Brown and Daz Newsome going against a very fast, very aggressive Notre Dame defense. I think that will be fun. Sam Howell has to get those guys cooking if they're going to cover this +5 number against Notre Dame on Friday too. I thought it was a Saturday game. Yeah, Friday at 2:30, which kind of sucks.
3:30.
A little bit sucks. Especially you're going to have that Thanksgiving hangover a bit, whatever it may be.
I know.
Diami Brown, Daz Newsome.
It's not going to have the energy that a Saturday would.
I wish it would. But Diami Brown, Daz Newsome. Tresh has this opinion that he likes Daz Newsome over Diami Brown. Mm-hmm. I've been growing on Diami Brown as a prospect. I like the size. I think he's looked better of late. I think he is moving up on my board.
Yeah. The matchup I want to see from that game is the running backs. Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, the best 1-2 punch in the country, going up against the Notre Dame defense because they shut down Travis Etienne. That defense can fly. They can stop anything you want to throw at them in the running game. So seeing how those guys are effective. And I have a good Notre Dame story about the Friday game after Thanksgiving. Haunts me to this day. If you'll think back, 2015, this was when I first moved to Cincinnati. Notre Dame was, I want to say 11-0 going up against Stanford the Friday after Thanksgiving. Night game, massive game. I'm at this bar, Rhinehouse, in town. My brother's in town visiting. My college roommate from Notre Dame is in town visiting. And I'm talking to this girl for most of the second half. And I thought things were going well, watching this Notre Dame game at the bar. They all of a sudden, with 30 seconds left, they were down. They have the go-ahead score. Deshaun Kaiser punches it in. Go nuts. I'm losing my mind. I run over to my brother, my roommate. We're celebrating, whatever. I turn back to look at this girl who I thought, like I said, things were going well with. Her and her friends had all left the bar. in that like 10 seconds that I was celebrating that game. So I guess things weren't going well. And then Stanford came down 30 seconds, kicked a field goal, and stopped Notre Dame from going to the playoff that year. And I had a bad night. So
That sounds like a terrible night.
yeah.
for Mike
So
Renner.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of worried the Friday after Thanksgiving is a cursed game for me.
Yikes. Well, I'm excited for it because my NCAA Greenline pick, I'm going to say it now, is UNC +5. Because I will continue to root against Brady Quinn, Mike Renner, and these Golden Domers that are high on their horse after Ian Book's had a couple good games in what has been an overall shaky career for Notre Dame. I'm interested to see if they can get UNC.
I've never pimped out Ian Book as the reason they're going to win these games. But they're going to win these games.
And also UNC coming off a bye.
Notre Dame's coming off a bye, too.
UNC coming off a better bye. I heard they're practicing harder in North Carolina. All right, jumping to other ones I have here. Elijah Vera Tucker and Amon-Ra St. Brown going against Colorado. You're not going to see a ton of USC games this year. But if you do, catch Elijah Vera Tucker. I tweeted out earlier this week, or I think it was yesterday. Elijah Vera Tucker is the only tackle in the country with 100 pass blocking snaps where they weren't RPO screens to play action and 0 pressures allowed. But I don't even think that stat gives him justice because this guy's also an absolute brawler in the run game. He's one of the highest graded players in the country because of it. I'm excited to watch more Vera Tucker and obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy that I think has a lot of the tools to be an outside receiver in the NFL. You just want to see more reps of it.
Yeah, someone asked me in my mailbag last week, is Wyatt Davis, the Ohio State right guard, is he locked in as IOL 1? I said, I don't know. Elijah Vera Tucker's tape this year has been better. He could make a play for
AVT.
IOL 1.
Should we start calling him AVT? Get ahead of that or no?
Yeah, I like AVT. That's
Okay,
good. Cool. Next guy on this list, Dion Noville, North Texas, nose tackle. One of the highest graded games we've ever given this past week against Rice. 98.7 grade, 99.9 run defense grade. If you go watch, it's almost comical. Now, Rice offensive line hasn't been at that level the rest of the season, but I want to see how he follows it up against UTSA this upcoming week.
I have to break this a little bit because we just got breaking news.
No way.
Ryan Finley, and because producer Mike Quinn is a big Cincinnati Bengals fan, Ryan Finley will not start. It's going to be Brandon Allen off the practice squad.
Oh, no.
How bad is Ryan Finley?
Smaller hands than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Brandon Allen. It's 8 5/8, right?
Yeah, one of some of the smallest hands ever.
He had to massage his hands between the Senior Bowl and the Combine to add some inches, which I wish also. Which I was gonna say that's how it usually works.
It's pretty solid
after you massage it. But
hand massages, I will say, are underrated. On a jokes aside comment, I think hand massages are underrated.
I've never gotten like a real deal massage.
Dude, your mom gives a good one. But I will say Brandon Allen starting ahead of Ryan Finley is my goodness, that sucks for Ryan Finley. I mean, how bad has he been? He was the guy who came in.
I mean, he's been awful.
Yeah.
Man, like we know how bad he's been.
Yeah, I guess so. I wonder how much that moves the line. Probably not a lot. I don't think it makes it that much worse, to be fair. No. But we'll see.
Traded up to get Ryan Finley. Don't forget that.
All right, my last one here before we get to the Greenline picks, which you already know, is UNC +5. Rondale Moore versus Rutgers. He had, 15 receptions in his opening game, but his average depth of target was minus a yard?
Scrimmage. Yeah, behind the line of scrimmage.
That is bad. I want to see him run down the field. If you can't run down the field against Rutgers, I know Greg Schiano's intimidating, but I'll be a little bit upset. His usage matters. We're not going to see a lot of Rondale Moore in college football. His usage matters. Let's see some vertical routes. Let's see him get down the field, use that speed, rip it up. He also had 0 forced missed tackles in that game. I'm predicting, bold prediction, that is not the case against Rutgers. I think he makes a couple guys miss.
Yes, I'll always want to watch Rondale Moore. He's always on the list. My last one, Roger McCreary, Auburn cornerback, kind of that whole Auburn secondary, going up against Alabama, Devontae Smith. That's that's a tape. That's tape you're going back to. Yeah, that's tape you're going back to in the draft evaluation process.
3 highest ranked players in yards per out run against press coverage this year: John Mechie III, Devontae Smith, and then Tylan Wallace, who
don't press him.
I was not as high on Tylan Wallace as others were entering this year, but as you watch more of his tape, I've been really impressed with what he's done so far this year.
That leads me into my Greenline pick, which is Auburn plus 24.5 against Alabama. This means something, even though Auburn hasn't been good this year, still means something. They still have NFL talent defensively. Yes, Bo Nix is their quarterback, and he's the worst quarterback in college football, in my opinion.
Whoa, but that's not true.
Okay.
He's not the worst quarterback in college football.
So he is one of the worst quarterbacks that you can start for, like, if you're a college football program, because he'll keep making you think that this year is going to be different, and they're going to start him for 4 years and you're going to suck all 4 of those years. You're just not going to be a contender all 4 of those years.
Wow, that's like the worst kind of quarterback you can be.
That's why I'm saying he's the worst quarterback in college football.
He's just good enough to where you think he's going to turn the corner.
Yeah,
and
like
next 4 years later, Auburn has just watched putrid season after putrid season.
Yeah.
Being a doormat in the SEC.
So That's how I feel there, but still enough to cover this 24.5 point spread because that's a ridiculous spread. They haven't lost a game by 24.5 all year. Now, Alabama's a very good team, but that's just a lot for a team that also like has talent, especially on the defense side of the ball.
All right, we're going to close here. I want to mention this before we close. I got to mention our guy, David Solfaro, intern here at PFF, who works on the podcast with us, helps us identify timestamps and all these things. We were doing the We're Thankful segment before the podcast started. And one of the best things he said was like, what are you thankful for? He's a big Michigan guy. John Harbaugh still has a job. Had me cracking up. That's so funny.
I'm thankful John Harbaugh still has a job, too, as an Notre Dame fan.
So are Ohio State fans. Yeah. The entire Big Ten is thankful John Harbaugh still has a job. Greg Schiano and Rutgers are very thankful. That's the only reason that game goes in OT. Sorry, David, but that had to be said. It's hilarious, though. If they lost that game, and the joke is that Harbaugh wasn't allowed back on the bus. But I honestly think the reality is I don't know if he's allowed back on the bus. You lose to Rutgers because it matters. It matters when you're playing the same teams every year and your fans, you need to mark off wins on your schedule preseason. Rutgers to win, Michigan State to win. The games that are going to be hard on our schedule every single year, Ohio State, Penn State, maybe another team. But right now, we can always mark those off as wins. When you're taking Rutgers to OT, the boosters are getting a little scared.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they would have lost that game, that's laughing stock in prime time. Sort of, yeah, that's not good.
All right. Well, that's going to do it. David Solfaro, love the guy. Very good on the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. But until next time, it'll be the after Thanksgiving edition. I'm going to need stories from this Cleveland Thanksgiving with the new girlfriend. And I want good ones. And can you drink a little bit more than you expected?
People were, I'll do that. People were asked for some relationship stories, and you had some good ones from this past week.
I have some tough ones that I can't bring up on the podcast. We can't bring up these stories here. But things aren't going good, okay? That's all you got to say.
But, wait. Can we bring up the one about how the one you talked about ended up listening to the podcast?
Oh, yeah. That was brutal. Well, she could be listening to the podcast again. Who knows? But yeah, we talked about the rising sign horoscope. She listened to the podcast, wasn't upset. And it was honestly a learning moment for me. You know, I was an asshole.
No, that's not. Nope. You're not an asshole.
I feel like part of me was like...
You gained us a listener.
True.
So go on more dates that are bad.
All right. I'll try that. I'll do it for you. The only date I know is a bad date, so I can't miss. But that's going to do it. Until next time, after Thanksgiving, we'll get Renner stories, continue to review the NFL. I'm excited for January, man. That's going to be peak draft season. We're going to be up on the podcast 3 episodes a week. The best draft podcast, and I may be biased, but the best draft podcast. If you're looking to hear about prospects every single week, every single day, you're going to be just listening in to 2-for-1 Drafts. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you to producer Mike Quinn, Solfaro as well. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.